How beautiful is the light upon the mountain! How beautiful is the light of hope in the hearts of men! But when that hope becomes fruition, all is made more glorious still. The banner of our presence is with men, but it passes unnoticed. They do not take cognizance of our presence. They do not take cognizance of the presence of immortality within themselves. It is as though a curtain of night had fallen upon human consciousness, and they become lost in a sea of materiality, blinded by reeds of human opinions, and the darkness of their own despair, generated by their lack of charity and compassion to one another. Yet all have faced similar circumstances at one time or another, and yet they forget. Now, lest the Chelas forget, I am reminding you of the cosmic bond. I am reminding you of the Eternal One and His proximity to your very heartbeat. I am reminding you of immutable love. I am reminding you of our counsels and of the power that is generated for goodwill here. As I speak this morning from Darjeeling, it is a matter of no idle reed standing shaking in the wind of man's opinion, but it is a matter of our release of divine diligence everywhere, that all may honor the immortal purposes of being and feel the fullness of the love that has given to all life. And now, by way of divertisement, I will say that I stand as godparent to this small child, and I will defend him against all enemies. I say to you, as Arthur of old, I am standing for the dauntless defense of right and holy truth. And there is great beauty expressed in the incoming of children into the world of form, where the destiny of that individual is not covered with mere human dust, but is covered with the gold dust of ascended master radiance and love. And therefore I say, let the families of America become consecrated to the ideal of goodwill and charity and purity, that the fires of regeneration may be stoked, and the fires of mere generation for pride, for pomp, and for circumstances may go out, until in a conglomerate effort mankind shall lift the burdens of all, and the Christ radiance shall descend and engulf the hearts of men. Precious ones of great light, I am come this morning for a more solemn purpose than mere witticism or the mere dedication of one life to God. For I come to dedicate the lives of a planet to goodwill, that as goodwill becomes enhanced by service, so the burdens of the world will lift as a curtain, and the dawning golden age will sweep across the world as a prairie fire, until all hearts are set on fire with an understanding of trust and security in God. Do you know, precious ones, what it means to have gentle trust? Do you know what it means to have security? And I refer here to cosmic security. Let me tell you, precious ones, that true cosmic security is only generated by your own God presence and your proximity thereto. So long as men shall lean upon the arm of flesh, they cannot have the fullness of cosmic hope born within them. But when they shall recognize the light that has descended upon the planet through the centuries to bring peace and release to men's hearts, they will understand the burden of oneness, of unity, that they may not exalt the person, but will exalt the divine personage that is within, that is ageless, without father and without mother, without beginning or without end of days. Mankind, in their comings and goings, so frequently do not observe the ritual of consecration. Many pass through embodiment after embodiment without scarcely paying notice to the mighty cosmic purposes of life. It is as though they were born not upon this beautiful planet rolling with verdure and loveliness, but as though they were born upon a mere speck of dust, and as though they had for parents spiders to spin webs of idleness. I tell you, beloved ones, men must awake to the power of virtue. They must also realize by contrast the ugliness that is apparent in a world that is not dedicated to goodwill. I do not say that you do not behold it and see it before you, but I say that to merely behold it and to do nothing about it is indeed a sin of omission, one of which the many are guilty. And while we speak in this wise, we would bring to you one concept which, while not new, has some merit within it. Precious ones, as you gaze upon humanity, you may behold them as a sea, and you will realize that the sea is vast. You will also realize that out of the sea there have come forth into prominence as a crest upon the wave, or the snow upon the mountain, an individual in whom there is great light. And then there are other individuals who come to the fore in whom there is a great prominence of shadow and discordant manifestation. You have observed the historical dates. You have noted how that individuals such as Genghis Khan have appeared as scourges to mankind and harbingers of destruction. You have also noted how that the pure and luminous orbs of Buddha, of Christ, and of the avatars has appeared upon the scene, but the masses remain steeped in mediocrity. They remain, as it were, a part of a universal solvent that has not resolved its own problems in the crucible of life, but remains content to provide a vehicle through which others may express their human will. And yet the cosmic drama of cosmic birth is at hand for many, and Saint Germain has brought unto the people in this day and age the great and holy truth of life, the power of man's own being, the power to know the great being which he is, and to realize that that being is brought to greater power through the affirmation of holy truth in the utterance of those words, Lo, O God, I am come to do thy will, for because thou art, I am. In the holy name of God and the affirmation of being is the key to man's freedom, for so long as men shall retain the mere image of human fame and name, they cannot fully recognize the power of their own great divinity, which is the power of the nameless one, Agam. Therefore I say to all, let them recognize the power of God's name, I am. Let them also recognize that if they would be indeed in the vanguard of the activities of light, that they must be free from dishonor and disunity. They must be free from malice, whether aforethought or coming to them with the swiftness of a viper. Ladies and gentlemen, men must clean their own houses. They must clean their own doorsteps. They must clean their own hearts. They must make a straight path for the feet of the Lord to walk upon. Oh, precious ones, do you realize how many have laid charges upon the record of the Lord? These are those who have said, how could this occur when God is in heaven? Yea, I say, they are moved by circumstances, but moved outside of the realm of cosmic reason. They have asked with one hand for bread, the bread of free will, and with the other they have violated that free will, and yet they say the responsibility is the Lord's. For if he liveth, how could he permit this to occur or that to occur? Oh, precious ones, human reason is so fallacious and so full of discord that it does not long remain upon the screen of life, but as a breath cometh upon a pane for a moment and vanisheth away, so does human consciousness come and go. But the knowledge of God and his holy will abide forever. I come this day consecrated with a great outpouring of cosmic love, and yet holy truth is in my right hand as a sword. For I come today to draw together from the family of nations in Saint Germain's name a new order of the ages. I come to gather a group of individuals who will emerge from the beast of the masses and will stand around our table round to swear holy fealty to God, to right, and to truth, who will adore the cosmic mother and will understand that their fatherhood is vested in God. These are those individuals who will hold the hand of cosmic purity. They will recognize as pure fools before men that God is in his heaven of righteousness, and that all will come right with the world as the world accepts the righteousness of heaven and casts aside and sunders the bond of human opinion and human vanity. Now, as I come to you this day, charged with the fullness of the Darjeeling Council's love, I ask you to affirm within your being the great cosmic bond that brought you forth into your own pristine purity. There you stood, not quavering in doubt or shaking in fear, but you stood at your cosmic birth as a wondrous sun of radiant perfection. You knew and you trusted in God then, for it was fashionable in that realm. Here it is not fashionable, because men know not what they do. But with the descent of holy wisdom, they shall put aside human vanity. And once again, men shall find that it is fashionable to be clothed upon with righteousness. Some are not content to wait that day, either in this embodiment or another. They are determined to be a part of our cosmic band that not only is moved forward individually, but moves the world forward by the power of light. These, then, will not rest upon human laurels, nor will they permit the dissonance of human reason to dull their minds. These are the alert ones who in this day seize the sword of the Lord, which is holy truth, and separate within themselves all that is darkness and despair from all that is light. And the one they sweep aside as with the point of the sword and say, "Get thee hence," and the other they gather to their bosom and cherish with all the love of their being. And so there are being born here upon earth by the engrafting of the supernal Christ radiance new avatars, those who will shine in the Father's kingdom like the sun in all its splendor, because they have cherished our will as superior, but recognized its emanation as coming from God through us. For we all also bow the knee, as the knights of old, to the great Grail radiance, the radiance that descends within the holy Grail of life and consecrates men to the ordeal of being, that the crucible of life may bring forth a refined vessel of honor in the temple of God. Solomon builded him a house, and I say that the wisdom that was released in order to build the temple of King Solomon is able this day to fulfill the house of God, so that the architect of this age, that is to be found within the Christ wisdom of every heart, may shine forth to give man dominance over his world as a wise master builder, so that he is not afraid, neither affrighted by the opinions of men, but stands confident in the ascended Master's holy truth, knowing that God is just and rewards them who diligently serve him. I say to you, it is really a great surprise at times to the ascended masters to find, after years of releasing our priceless substance to mankind, that some can actually hear our words without being moved enough to require us to come to them again within a fortnight, or else they wax, as it were, cold in their own human reason and become subjected to fits of human depression. Well, precious ones, we are not interested in generating within mankind such a weak response to the purity of God. We therefore implore you, if these signs have appeared in your being, that you shall recognize it as depicting to your consciousness a need for more holy prayer and more holy introspection of the affirmation of divine truth within your own selves and not within another. If mankind would only learn to gaze within the firmament of their own being and see when the vessel is empty, they would then go to the places where the sellers of oil assemble, and they would purchase oil for the flaming lamps of their being in due time, so that the flaming radiance of their being would not go out or wax dim. Precious ones, I come to you charged with love. I know that my words may at times sound harsh, They are not harsh. They are only firm against those forces that would destroy the kingdom of God and leave you bereft of your immortal inheritance. Do you see, precious ones, to merely cater to human beings in order to please or tickle their ears is not to fulfill the plan of God, but to bring to men holy truth that makes of them a sacred vessel in the house of God, is to bring them eternal jewels of light's perfection. With these they can adorn themselves, and the brotherhood can wax strong upon the planetary body, not being carried away with dissimulation, but being drawn together at the foot of the risen Christ, the consecrated purity that will enfold all with the swaddling garments of light until all are able to stand on Olivet's brow, until all are able to stand upon Bethany's hill, until all are able to turn to the one in whom the demon lies in control and say, "Come out from him in the name of God, which I am," and see that one restored, clothed, and in his right mind before God. This power is your power. It belongs to the Christ of every man and the Christ of every road, to those of every creed, to those of every race, to all upon earth, to all life. It is the inheritance of man, and yet so many remain defrauded in iniquity. I have spoken today, and my message shall be beamed far. After a certain number of days, perhaps weeks, perhaps months, I shall not reveal, for it is all not yet clear even to our octave as to what the response to this my message of goodwill shall be. Nevertheless, after a certain number of days, when the gestation period of this message is fulfilled, I shall come again pertaining to the mysteries of the new age and release holy substance for a specific purpose. Meanwhile, on behalf of the Darjeeling Council, with the softness of our love, we enfold you all in the radiance of your own immortality. We cherish you each one. We cherish all life. We cherish the Christ of all. We hold all close to goodwill, to God's will. May the breath then of Darjeeling splendor be conveyed to you, and may you feel the softness of our carpets here. May you walk without sandals in our tower room on the white, soft carpeting. May you stand in my presence, and may you feel my love in greater intensity still in time to come. Gracious ladies and gentlemen, the great Darjeeling Council, the entire great white brotherhood and spirit thereof, to all I say, God bless you, I thank you. marts of Babylon, dispensing their wares of material possessions, cannot give to mankind aught of holy substance. For holy wisdom, as sought of old by Solomon, is indeed to the present hour the greatest boon which mankind can ever receive or know. To be taught of God, to have an open consciousness, whereby the thoughts and meditations of your heart may spiral up the golden stairway of illumination and commune with your eternal presence, is the most wonderful blessing that life can bestow. For as the anointed oil of holy wisdom is poured so gently into the cupped hands waiting to receive it, one is able to anoint the entire body of your being with this holy wisdom, so that, in the words of Peter, you may be washed, not only your feet, but your hands and your head also. Know ye the symbology of this? The feet symbolizes the physical, which carries man to divers parts of the earth in the preaching of the good news of the eternal kingdom. The head is the mind, the consciousness, the wisdom, the illumination flame. All is anointed by the Holy Spirit. The hands symbolize the healing service and the ministration that is done in God's name to others. And therefore holy wisdom must not only be retained within the mind, but holy wisdom must also express in the services which you render to mankind. In ages that are past, and even in the present day, there abides in men connected with holy office a certain amount of untransmuted substance. All those who serve the cause of God have need of the great flame of forgiveness. I refer to those unascended. For all are involved in certain outer turmoil as they walk the road of life. But the great flame of cosmic purity is cleansing all from day to day, and holy wisdom must be imparted to all, that all may share in the beauties of God's kingdom. The simple charity of the Christ mind is able to drink deeply of the fount of illumination and retain for all time that which is imparted. Blessed ones, you know how often you are privileged to have a dictation from one of our band, and within a few minutes after the dictation has passed, you seem unable to recall the words and grand thoughts that have been imparted, and thus you yearn to possess the parchments whereupon there is recorded the printed word, that you may have them for further study, and this is wise. But blessed ones, take note how easily you can recall the simple things, the basic ideas concerning Christ's charity. Do you know why the great masters have at times spoken as to children? Do you know why it is that we do it? It is that you may have a thought matrix of basic and pure simplicity into which we may pour holy wisdom's oil. And thus, through these simple concepts, you find entrance to a mighty avenue of culture and the impartation of the secret doctrine from on high, with all of its mysteries and wonder. You know, precious ones, the doorway is simple. It swings inward on the welcome hinges of the soul, and it swings outward in response to the cosmic knock. You must therefore recognize that just as you would come to us and commune with us, so we would also come to you and commune with you. And yet, when we knock upon the portals of your heart, you must bid us to enter, or we cannot come. For the laws that govern the entrance of the Most High God into your consciousness do govern us also, and therefore we will not go where the Master is not welcomed. The Master presence of life is your own God presence, and when you bid this presence welcome, you invite us in also. For we are part of the retinue consecrated to magnify his flame and pour our adoration outward in God's name. The interior development of the soul of man does not always appear to manifest to others. It does not always appear in manifestation to the self, to the personal self, to the identity. But it goes on, and progress is made. Wherever holy wisdom is loved and honored in the doing, for it is in the doing of God's will that you build up and reinforce the bastions of wisdom. You have sung the song, "A Mighty Fortress is Our God." Precious ones, all this is holy truth. But unless this divine presence surrounds you with his radiance, are you a part of his fortress and of his protection? You see, blessed ones, to have holy wisdom, to sing holy songs, to render holy adorations is good. But to know why you render them, and to whom you pour your adoration, is a part of holy wisdom which we make known to you inwardly and in the interior realms of the soul. The brothers of the golden robe do not always minister without. Much of our secret work is to impart within to you those holy communicated ideas which will enable you to appreciate natural beauty and to see the great power that lies behind it. Precious ones, as you gaze upon a tree and see the blossoms cupped in sheer delight, radiant white and splendid, as you focus your eyes to a new dimension and see the tiny, myriad fairy-like creatures of light that bask in the supernal radiance of the sun as it is reflected from the chaliced white blossoms, your souls may take flight into the infinite realm of God's natural beauty. As you see these tiny beings of the elements flitting from blossom to blossom in perfect rhythm and wonder, you know that mankind, in all of their rigidity, will not accept the reality of that which you see and drink in. They would suspect you of foolishness or hallucinations or even insanity. You cannot impart then to the masses of mankind the blessings imparted to you by spiritually opened eyes. You cannot expect mankind to do aught but smile, and therefore it must remain an interior secret of your soul. And you must be grateful to God that you are able to see these radiant creatures of loveliness and airy wonder. The celestial beings of the air, the tiny sylphs, as they render their cosmic service in the springtime and throughout the summer season, moving from hemispheric band to hemispheric band, are always delighted in the offering they bring to life. You can take lessons from them. You can draw holy wisdom from the ecstasy they express. Did you know, precious ones, that the light rays of the great central sun are appropriated by them and drawn through their heart, so that they express the joy of the Most High God even in their tiny ways? Precious ones, the wondrous fabric of life is so intertwined and interwoven that I must say to you today that the holiest of wisdom is the wisdom that in its childlike simplicity understands the joys of life and does not thirst for a mere complicated expression, but is content day after day to be still and to know that the I Am is God. And then in that wondrous stillness to know that holy wisdom that frameth the universe and all that is able to make the shining way a way of completeness for all. In this surety of knowing, men in patience possess their souls until they have received the wisdom that enables them to take command of the atoms of their form and say to them, "Ascend." I thank you. In the infinite joy of the sacred fire, I am come this day to speak to you on behalf of the fire elementals, those fiery salamanders whose luminosity and omnipresence is a boon to all parts of life. I greet you in the name of beloved Diana, and I greet you in the name of cosmic purity, for God's presence speaks of fire, and I am Prince of the fiery element, blazing forth then the sweet essence of the living flame. O precious ones, as the great cosmic clock and the tide of life moves forward and the world is pushed ahead in its timetables to manifest God's purity and truth, I urge all those who have long served the cause of freedom to hold fast to that sacred offering from the heart of the ascended ones. I urge you not to permit for one moment the discouraging aspects of life, the powers of negation, and the discordant thoughts of mankind to penetrate your blessed worlds, but rather that you submit yourselves unto God and to the consuming power of divine truth, which is able to give you a body of fire. Most precious ones, the indestructible body of fire, which is composed of holy substance, is the destiny of all who understand the mysteries of the ascension and are willing to partake of the sacred Eucharist. The power of light and its ability to whiten atomic substance beyond ordinary comprehension, to purify the screen of man's consciousness, to purify the ideals of men, together with their ideas, to cleanse mankind's emotional body from all aspects of human viciousness, to perpetuate within man a continual spiration of the sacred fire, which culminates in a divine union whereby man is raised, as it were, to complete divine stature, being caught up as Elijah of old in a chariot of fire, is the destiny of man outpictured in the glory of the ascension. This is akin to the transfiguration, all of which is an activity of light and an activity of fire. Mankind, precious ones, do not understand this action, for in one sense of the word, their consciousness has been preconditioned by the so-called normal concepts of the mass consciousness, the absorption of certain fixed ideas, whereby they consider that they come forth in a certain manner unto the screen of life, and that they must therefore go in a certain manner to be placed back into the heart of the earth, and then to hope for a resurrection. Let all life take note that throughout the ages certain individuals have always vanished from before the gaze of men, and ascended unto God, the very God of gods, because of the immortal consecration of their own being to him. I would point out to you that if every vestige and trace of human creation and all wrong thoughts and feelings were removed from the screen of man's consciousness, so much so that all that remained was good, there would be fulfilled the requirements of heaven concerning the ascension by all. For the very electrons dancing within the form of every individual are themselves possessed with a certain name. You may call them free electrons, and yet the question which mankind cannot understand is that they seem to be not free. Precious ones, in one sense of the word it can be said that they have voluntarily submitted to a certain magnetic pattern whereby they do the will of God to sustain matter, form, and substance in accordance to a certain pattern whereby man are able to manifest a body or form, and whereby other atomic substance is precipitate in the world of form. Well, precious ones, I am sure you know that just as the temperature of the sun has a certain degree, so the atomic and electronic substance of mankind has a certain degree of manifestation of the fire element. Therefore, seeing God is a consuming fire, and all things are composed of the body of his substance, it follows according to divine law and pattern thereof that the atomic structure of man, if it were relieved of the dense human creation and the elements of iniquity which pertains to man's wrong use of thought and feeling, that the electrons within the free orbits of their own choosing would dance in the sacred fire and would release unto man the necessary light to transmute all substance remaining, so that the ritual drama of the ascension could be the unfoldment of every man, whereby in a chariot of fire he would ascend unto God, not as an action of destruction, not in a method whereby he himself would be consumed, but in that wondrous return to the heart of God, whereby the dense substance which has been created through the wrong use of feeling would itself be consumed and transmuted, purified, and exalted to manifest nothing but the perfection of God. This then would be very dear to the heart of every fire elemental, for we are most anxious, blessed ones, to see sustained within the force field of identity which every man calls his own being, an action of the sacred fire and the precipitation of holiness which abideth forever. I would call to your attention that as you sit in the radiation of the ascended beings, from time to time you are exalted and lifted up in consciousness toward God. But it is almost as the blink of an eye, for ere long you return to the ordinary mass effluvia, wherein mankind finds patterns of the denser spheres surrounding his own force field. Through absorption, mankind take on the weight of human oppression and unhappiness, and infect one another with these outer conditions. This, precious ones, is not the divine plan, but it is an exact example of why, precious ones, the angelic beings do not always hold consort with mankind, because they cannot comfortably abide in the auras of those individuals who continue to express the baneful and discordant emanations of hatred, viciousness, discord, lack of peace, and impurity. Most precious ones, then, the way to attract the spiritual forces of life and the powers of the angelic host, the way to enter into attunement with the nature devas, those magnificent beings who ensoul trees and groups of natural manifestations, is for you to attune with the love and consciousness of God in such a wise that there is no room in the inn of your being for human discord to enter. I ask you, precious ones, when you are in the grip of human discord, is this a comfortable feeling for you to have? I ask you, when you stand in the withering blast of the emanations of impurity and discord from another, is this a comfortable release that you are creating to pass into their aura and being? Are you not then responsible for that release? O precious ones, in the name of a righteous karma, I say, let all release themselves from discordant manifestations, whether known or unknown, before they can act or further encroach upon the purity of your being. Most precious ones, the decrees which you utter must be fulfilled in your own daily lives. They must swing into action by the great power of the cosmic pendulum. You have moved in the wrong direction for many embodiments, and you have lived in the banality of ignorance for a long time. The time has come, and is even past, precious ones, when the great pendulum of life has moved in the right direction, and you therefore ought to hold on to that divine momentum of progress and forsake the old decadent cycle of mankind, which is cutting individuals down and preventing them from entering into their own freedom. You must recognize, precious ones, that there is a double action of the pendulum manifest in the consciousness of mankind. There is the great cosmic wheel of progress that always turns in a centripetal direction. It always turns according to progress. But, beloved ones, mankind have also a destructive action which turns in the opposite way and is tied into the discordant energies of mankind. Hold fast now, precious ones, to the light. Hold fast to the power of the sacred fire. Hold fast to the truth of your being. Do not permit human discord to deny you your ascension, to deny you all that God would bestow upon you. Oh, precious ones, as we now begin to generate the spiritual fervor of the sacred fire within your hearts, and the yearning for divine union, we ask that you turn your attention toward the great sun of your being. We ask you that you turn your attention to your own mighty I Am presence. We ask you that you feel the warmth and the heat and the happiness, the buoyancy of your own divine presence. We ask you that you feel the Father's arms of light reaching out to surround you, to encompass your being, to hold you in his steely white light, We ask you to recognize that all the dense atomic structure of your being can be penetrated by his mighty light rays. We ask you to recognize that it is in sloughing off human discord and despair and human consciousness that you find your freedom. In the name of God, I say to every one of you, do you think that your contemporaries are able to give you your freedom? Do you think those embodied with you upon earth, by reason of their proximity to your life stream, are able to give you your freedom? Do you think that mortal friends are more important than God? Oh, precious ones, to what degree and level of degradation have mankind descended that they can place greater stock in their own earthly parents or family or friends than they can in the immortal, all-powerful, radiant Father-Mother principle of life, is something that the hearts of the angelic beings cannot even understand. And yet the record is clear. Mankind have been attached to outer conditions which have not given them their freedom. They have been attached to outer conditions which have held them to a round of senseless pleasure. And all of the joys of the universe, the leaping, dancing, essential freedom of the magnificent atomic power and electronic energy of the universe is at hand to give men the power that is forever and ever the power of victory. Well then, precious ones, is it not time to say to that human lump of creation, I am the immortal flame of cosmic freedom. I demand that all of my energies in outer concentration submit to the great God flame within my heart. I demand that all outer conditions come within effective God control. I demand that all that is not of the light be transmuted and changed, and that I be the fullness of all that which I already am. For I am the full perfection of God. I am the living flame of cosmic freedom. I am the buoyant, dancing joy of God that passes through my entire four lower bodies and descends from the heart of my presence to give me my freedom now. I am the raising power of the Spirit of light and fire, which lifts me to the victory of my ascension, and is the full gathered momentum of the saints and ascended beings of all ages to ascend back to the very heart of God and the immortal consciousness thereof. Beloved ones, to return to the Father's house as depicted in the symbolic drama and tale of the prodigal son is a real act. It is not a mere symbolic one. It is a genuine act that has more victory and joy in it than the going forth and descending into matter and leaving of the Father's house ever did. For it is the return wherein the chain of gold is passed around the neck of the Son, symbolizing that that one is joined by holy and illumined links of cosmic wisdom and understanding garnered from the experiences had below. And therefore that one, in the ritual of the return, finds greater joy than ever existed before the knowledge of denser spheres was made known to that one. They of the angelic host who comfortably live in the higher aspects of creation do not have the same ecstasy that the returning soul does, who, having partaken of the husks of life then, upon returning to the Father's house, realizes in the vast media of contrast the wonders that God has bestowed in this golden link of immortality. That is no chain to bind, but only the gift symbol of freedom's bond. Oh, precious ones, in the name of God I say then, realize that from the days of Enoch through the days of Elijah and to the present hour, numerous individuals have stripped the electrons and atoms of their substance of human density until, as God looked and saw that form below, he spake and said, "This is my beloved one, in whom I am well pleased." For he saw reflected there the transcendent image of his own immortal consciousness. And as he gazed upon that consciousness below, he said, "This portion of myself I will call back to my heart, for it is worthy of my allness." And so the part returned to the heart of the one, and therefore the ritual of the ascension was made, and the mighty flames of freedom encompassed that one round about, and the dense substance being burned and destroyed, as it were. And this, of course, is figurative and yet symbolic and yet also real in one sense, was accomplished. And it came to pass that the very lightness of man's own being was such that he rose in this chariot of fire and was carried with peals of victory's thunder into the higher octaves of light. When Jesus ascended from Bethany's hill, it may not have seemed as spectacular to some as it has been recorded as the ascension of Elijah in the chariot of fire. But I tell you, beloved ones, the inner action was even more spectacular when Jesus ascended. One day you may understand this mystery concerning Elijah and John the Baptist. You may also understand the great action of cosmic law and its invulnerability. Individuals today, in their great concepts of error, and I say great because they are gross, not because they are great in a divine sense, so frequently utilize the most faulty forms of reasoning, and yet they continue to sustain them, not knowing that they are bands and bonds of bondage, which prevent them from comprehending the light of God. Oh, if individuals would only let themselves go, if they would only let themselves go and would accept the fullness of their own mighty I Am presence, if they would let go of their own little foibles, their own little ideas, which have not given them their freedom, I tell you, precious ones, the world would see a greater change than any that has dawned ere now. And yet it is at hand. The kingdom of God is at hand for those of you who will accept it, and will accept the tide of freedom and the tide of holy flame that lifts you into the consciousness of God without fear. Precious ones, there is no need for individuals to fear. For man, originally, ere he descended through the spheres of density, abode in the heart of God, in the heart of his living flame, and was as comfortable as I am this hour. Therefore, there is no need to fear concerning the purity of the source and return thereto. All that which man should fear, if he should fear aught, abides in the spheres of human creation, where the frightful horrors that are created by man exist. These horrors, precious ones, are created by individuals who have misused God's energy. And I tell you, beloved, mighty Astrea and the ascended host are doing all in their power and all that the great law will allow to clean up the astral hells of identity which exist in various parts of the universe. And yet, precious ones, there is a great need for mankind to continue their services, to invoke and to call forth purity, for by reason of mankind's discordant manifestations, there yet exists any number of places upon this planet which require a tremendous outpouring of light before the people will be able to receive their freedom. Oh, precious ones, if you could only see as I do the concentrated energy of hate that abides yet in certain segments of this nation, America, as well as other parts of the world, you would realize how important it is to continue your decrees and your calls to us for more light. If you could only see the tremendous action that the law requires, if you would only realize nothing upon earth could prevent you from seeing to it that you render this service at every opportunity that you can. Oh, precious ones, in the name of God, in the name of the ascension flame for all life, I say, let us arise in consciousness to take upon us the burden of God, the responsibility of caring for his creation with the same intensity, the same fiery zeal that he, the Father, has for so long sustained. You know that as a result of the fiats made at the Easter class, it is necessary for mankind to seek God. But this does not prevent the ascended host or the angelic beings, or does not prevent embodied mankind from taking the Father's love and drawing it forth from his heart and imparting it to mankind, thereby becoming his emissaries, his ambassadors, his own transcendent representatives. Oh, precious ones, in the name of the Lord Mahat Chohan, in the name of freedom for the earth, on behalf of every elemental being, I say, let love expand, let love expand, let love expand. Let this wondrous central action, which is really the centripetal or centripetal action of the sacred fire flower, expand out into the world until the Buddhic manifestation that is released will cause the mighty transcendent flame flower that is within every heart to unfold its petals and release its fragrance here below, that the world may know that I am the Lord thy God, that giveth thee life and spiritual friends for all ages yet to come. In the name of Diana, and in the name of the sacred fire element, I, Prince Aramesis, release to you, in closing, a breath of cosmic purity. Thank you, and good afternoon. Hail, men and women of the new age! The fires of purification blaze brightly on the altars of heaven, and upon our altars here in Luxor the sweet censers are swinging, and the atmosphere is pure with the breath of fragrant thoughts outpoured to God from hearts consecrated wholly to the divine ideal and to the divine idea. Blessed ones, heart friends of ages, men and women of integrity, I address you in God's holy name. You have struggled from within your souls, seeking to outpicture your own mastery. You have sought to repress the activities that you felt were hindering the expression of the kingdom of God. You have devoted yourselves to holy orders, and you have felt the pulse of the mighty flame of life rising upon your own heart's altar and bringing you a sense of the magnificence of God. But I tell you, precious ones, when it comes to pass that the fires of purification have performed their perfect work, you will see in the dying embers of man's own ephemeral existence that all of the glory of God's kingdom is the sole reality of life. You will realize and know that the former existence in temporal consciousness was actually but crumbs from the Lord's table. You will know then that your spiritual identity and the magnificence of the light is everything, and all else which has existed formerly in your own consciousness as fleeting images of mortal existence has been but a transitory happening in the experience patterns as you evolved into your own immortal God consciousness. O magnificent men and women of the New Age, I speak to you because you are the forerunners also of that which is yet to come. There is an echo that comes from the eternal presence that blazes a trail down through the ages and finds echoing in the hearts of men a remembrance of the eternal fiat when the word went forth and said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Today that light is the same magnificent holiness that has always blazed at inner levels. It is the great purity that drew us from Atlantis before the continent descended into the deep, and it is the mighty pillar of fire that leads those God-loving individuals of every age out from the multitudes and causes them to listen to the mighty voice of the Eternal One speaking within the folds and recesses of their own consciousness, drawing them then into a breathing awareness of the immaculate concept of God. Gracious ones, as I address you this day, I hear the chants of the candidates for the ascension here at Luxor ringing in my ears and stirring my heart to the memory of the blessed ascensions that have occurred since the day when Jesus, in his mighty body of light, rose from the hilltop of Bethany and raised his hands in loving benediction over the multitude. going into heaven and returning to the heart of the Father in that holy manner which is the destiny of all who will cry, I come to do thy will, O God. Blessed ones, the immortal fiat of the ages, lo, I am come to do thy will, O God, is the first precept fiat that is released through the consciousness of a candidate for the ascension. This is declared as that blessed one descends from the heart of God to take incarnation and embodiment upon the planet, but it is emphasized in every lineal act of that individual as they adhere to the mighty line of perfection and walk the straight and narrow path that leads to their ascension. Deviations occur. We have witnessed it, and this is the karmic recording, the manifestation of man's life's energy as it is written upon the pages of eternity, in the segments of time and experience. But, precious ones, all that is not of the light must be eradicated from that holy page, for no eternal blot could stain that wondrous page of light, but only those recordings that are made in the whiteness of purity and the virtue of divine love in action. I come this day in the fullness of all of the love of the ascension flame to blaze forth here in this city, Washington, fair of the ages, the flame of the ascension this blessed day, radiating forth from the dawn of this day and extending my light unto the day of eternity. But that which I say here this day is not spoken for you alone, but is spoken for all life upon this blessed planet, that they too may come in the consciousness of the eternal spring, to be able to understand the meaning of resurrection, to feel the mighty waves of light pulsating from the very soles of their feet to the top of their heads, and thence rising up to their divine presence, the mighty life tide that lifts and exalts all that is life into the purity of itself. Precious ones, as men occupy their minds with so many expressions of human vanity, it is so easy to understand why they are not able to always absorb the eternal message of the ages, for their hearts have been occupied with many things, and they have not always lifted up their eyes to the eternal hills from whence cometh their strength into manifestation. But the hour has come, and now is, when the multitudes must understand the law of their being. They must understand the law governing the release of ascension's flame, that they may become immortalized in the eyes of God, even as they are and were immortalized by his eternal fiat when he spoke into manifestation the universal appearance of things by the declaration, let there be light. For in this light, precious ones, is the substance of which the universes are spun. And this is a release of the sacred fire element into manifestation in the outer densities of form and space and time. But withal, the purposes of existence must not be berated by men. They must recognize out of the chrysalis of the presence, even this present day, they must recognize their own divine presence as all of the universal perfection of God. Unfortunately, in an impoverished consciousness, mankind too frequently feel that they themselves are poor and maimed and blind and halt. This is not true. I say, stop then this action in God's holy name. Let the fires of immortal purity eradicate the human sense from the consciousness of men. Let them lift up their consciousness to behold God in their every doing, in their outgoing and their incoming. Let them behold God in their speech and in their thoughts. Where can they hide from the face of the Almighty? It is so ridiculous, precious ones, from a divine standpoint at least, and I know that I have your pardon ere I speak it, for mankind to assume that God does not know their thoughts. God and the masters, precious ones, simply are not interested in thoughts of human vanity. It is not that we do not have the power to penetrate into the consciousness of men. It is simply this, that we cannot learn perfection therefrom, and therefore we choose to lift our gaze to the heights of snow-crowned perfection, where abides the untrammeled wonders of God's messages of hope and love. The eternal values expressing there are worthy of the eyes of the saints, and therefore they have pledged both eye and heart and hands of light in the service of the whole plan and every part thereof. But have you thought, most blessed ones, of the part you play in that plan? Have you thought upon the fact that there is no part of life that is so small that it is not deemed worthy of divine notice? You must realize that I am speaking for the entire esoteric hierarchy when I say to you, you are a part of that plan. You were created by God. You were destined to be given the gift of your ascension in the light. It is not to another that we speak, but to each who hear, and to each who are given this word, and to all men, if they will accept it. For life, in its mighty onrush toward perfection, does not pass man by. It is man who in his state of ignorance passes the great light by and is satisfied with the crumbs of life, those conditions that are so far less than perfection as to be not even deemed worthy of mention, and yet we mention it only, precious ones, that we may call your attention by the law of contrast to the great eternal verities, that as you lift your consciousness upward, you may recognize that the past can be forgotten today, and that the future can stand before you this very moment and every moment of that time which is to come, revealed in the precious promises of God, invoked, if you will, by your attention, invoked, if you will, by your diligence, invoked, if you will, by your consecrated love, invoked, if you will, by the eternal word gone forth and spoken from within your being. O magnificent beings, I address you as candidates of light's ascension. I address you as victorious men and women. I say to you, it is folly to resign yourself to the fates. It is the part of holy wisdom that accepts the command of God, the great command to life, saying, come forth and stand in all your radiant perfection. Come forth and accept the fiat of life. Come forth and be the purity which God within you is. Come forth and accept forever the wonders of his eternal consciousness. Men and women of cosmic destiny, you today who are candidates for victory, please understand that all that has occurred in past ages need not be historically repeated as a discordant manifestation in your individual lives or in the lives of all mankind. There is something most glamorous and wonderful, precious ones, for mankind as they contemplate the salvation of the world. In a state of blind idealism, many sit back and have the power of wish, and they wish to see the world fulfilled in its own immortal destiny, yet they do not relate this to themselves. They must accept for themselves the fiats of God. This is what has happened to every ascended being. Every ascended being has accepted for themselves the mighty light that God has released, and they have nourished it, and they have expanded it, and they have followed the discipline and rule of order which God has imposed upon all. And they have loved that rule, and they have loved that discipline, and they have loved that order enough to offer themselves to God in all that they are, and they have been blessed by Him beyond recompense according to mortal consciousness. And I often say unto myself, beyond even infinite consciousness, for I cannot find words or feelings enough in the universe to express my gratitude for all that God means to me, for all that He is to me, for all that every ascended master feels concerning the mighty tide of consciousness that is God and His goodness, marshaled together in one holy outpouring of energy from the great central sun, releasing myriad rays of perfection everywhere from the entire periphery of God's identity, and extending Himself into the infinite everywhere, an outbreathing of holy radiance. The saturation of that radiance ought by now to have penetrated every ounce of man's densified and calcinated being, but unfortunately, and yet perhaps it is fortunate for us, mankind are confined within their own orb of consciousness, and therefore they are not able to contaminate the higher octaves, but must retain here that which they have chosen in human vanity. Yet our hopes flourish, our hopes expand. We look for a daily reappearance of Christ's illumination in men's hearts. We yearn to nourish divine concepts here. We are not in any way resigned to man's fate. We are determined that the fires of God shall accomplish upon earth the purification which the great law intends. And we know that the entire hierarchy in their offering of light will eventually bring about the perfection of God upon earth. But it waits the acceptance of more and more individuals, for they are a part of the vanguard of light's activity in expression here. They have individual missions to perform that are just as important as my own was when I was in physical embodiment. They have indeed missions to perform that are just as important to mankind as beloved Jesus' mission was 2,000 years ago. Every life is important, for the very hairs of your head are indeed numbered. Yea, God has taken into account each stone as He builds the temple invisible, and yet I say to you that that temple shall become the temple visible, and you shall see that the white stone that has been given to you as the stone of cosmic purity, that has the new name written in it, which no man knoweth saving he who has received it, is your immortal God identity, expressing the purity of your immortal being and fulfilling your cosmic destiny now in the time consciousness that eternity is able to find an orifice through which the waters of life may freely flow, that all men may come and drink from the fountain of cosmic purity, flowing forth from the crystal throne of God in waves of regenerate fire, purity, the cosmic elements of the water, the cosmic elements of the fire, the cosmic elements of the air, commingling and washing out the density of the earth in a mineral purification of the very jeweled elements of the earth's own substance, until your very bones are quickened with the scintillating light of God, and your entire identity in its regenerate state is raised in the ritual of the ascension into the heart of your divine presence. Lo, I am come this day. Lo, I say, let all who will this day renew their vows and pledge again their faith to God. For the hour has come when the tides of light shall sweep the earth as never before, and the earth shall tremble because of the incoming light of God and its action of cosmic purification, and mankind shall know that the Lord is God of the very earth, and all dissonance and despair and human fears shall pass away, and God shall wipe away every tear from human eyes, because they shall abide in his consciousness of eternal felicity and grace. From Luxor, as the censers continue to swing, as the music of the neophytes is heard chanting to God, I now take my leave of you. And yet, as Christ of old spake, Lo, I am with you always. So then, precious ones, know that as you purify your worlds, you have the blessing of the seraphic host with you in greater portion. As you purify your worlds, they are able to bring light substance of immortal grace into your force field. As you purify your worlds, you prepare for the reappearance of the Christ in the temple, from whence the money changers of human creation have been cast out, and those who have bargained in human flesh are no longer abiding. For only the love and light of God abides in that temple, and there is no night there. Gracious ladies, gracious gentlemen, may I thank you for your kind attention upon our presence this day. May I remind you as you go to your homes that a coal from Serapis was given to you. As you take it into your heart and hold it there, as you nourish it and pour out your love to it, it will expand. This is God's law. And thus, the sacred coal of ascension's flame, brought from Atlantis long ago and nourished here in Luxor, will find in the many sparks that now fly from our forge of light a renewal of the ancient covenants and an extension of the great white brotherhood in its boundless activities for and on behalf of the salvation of men. I thank you in the name of God Purity, and I bid you good afternoon.